A new study has found that one type of gut bacteria can turn into cancer in just 6 days. And it's not even that uncommon. But what exactly is happening here? What kind of microbe is this and why should you care? Let's get into it. Okay, first off, let me introduce you to our favorite microbe. It's a bacterium called Fusobacterium nucleatum. And for the most part, it's an okay sort of roommate. This microbe lives in your mouth and your colon, and it's actually pretty chill. Its presence doesn't really have any effect on your health. In fact, some research suggests that Fusobacterium nucleatum may actually be good for you. For example, this microbe helps break down certain fibers that our guts can't digest on their own. And there's also some evidence that having high levels of Fusobacterium nucleatum in your mouth as a kid might actually protect you against things like tooth decay and gum disease later in life. But it turns out that this microbe can also be a total nightmare, and it doesn't even take that long for things to go south. In a new study, researchers found that when they transplanted Fusobacterium nucleatum from colorectal cancer tumors into the guts of mice, they could make healthy mice sick in just 6 days. 6 days. That's like a weekend away, and then bam, you've got an inflamed colon. It's unclear how, why, or even what it is about these microbes that causes them to flip from chill to downright nasty. It's possible that they start out as harmless residents that turn pathogenic under the right conditions. Or maybe they're always a little bit evil and just waiting to cause trouble. Either way, once they get going, they seem to do it fast. And yes, this does seem to be the same microbe that scientists have been studying for its role in colorectal cancer in humans. So while we don't know exactly how this happens, we do know that it does happen. Now, before we move on, if you appreciate all the info we bring you, please support us because it really helps our work. Also, it turns out that F. nucleatum is a master manipulator, and it uses a bunch of different tricks to mess with your body. First off, this microbe produces something called hydrogen sulfide, which can make your gut lining inflamed and leaky. A healthy gut lining is a strong barrier between your insides and the outside world. But when it gets damaged, the tight junctions between your gut cells loosen up, letting unwelcome guests like toxins and pathogens wander through. And when those guys show up, your immune system freaks out, leading to more inflammation. Second, Fusobacterium nucleatum is also thought to fuel inflammation by activating a gene called STH3 in immune cells. When that gene gets turned on, your immune cells start pumping out molecules that attract even more immune cells to the site of infection. And while this is normally a good thing, like you want immune cells to rush to the site of an infection to fight off invaders, too many immune cells can actually end up making matters worse. They release chemical signals that promote inflammation, which can damage the gut lining and lead to leaky gut syndrome. And finally, Fusobacterium nucleatum is also a sneak. The microbe has a weird trick where it attaches itself to the protective mucus layer that covers your gut. Then that's a problem because that mucus is supposed to stop pathogens from getting too close to your gut cells. Without that mucus, your gut cells are much more vulnerable to being damaged. And when you combine all these effects, you end up with a gut that's highly inflamed, full of leaky spots, and without that protective mucus layer. At that point, it's basically an open invitation for cancer cells to set up shop. But that's not all. Fusobacterium nucleatum also seems to be able to get inside your gut cells directly. And once it's in there, it starts manipulating your cell's DNA to make more of the proteins that help it stick around. Once it's cozied up inside your cells, Fusobacterium nucleatum starts turning out proteins that help it cling to your gut lining. One of those proteins is called FADA, and it sticks around long enough to allow other Fusobacterium nucleatum to attach and grow. FADA also triggers signaling pathways that promote cell growth and survival. So not only does FADA help this microbe stick around, but it also helps cancer cells ignore signals that tell them to die. So when all these factors come together, the result is pretty grim. Inflammation, leaky gut, no mucus, and direct cell manipulation. This is a perfect storm for cancer to take over. And the crazy thing is that it can happen so fast. Remember, these mice developed tumors in just 6 days after getting this microbe. To put that in perspective, it took 20 weeks for tumors to appear in mice that were fed a carcinogen along with their normal food. So in terms of timelines, going from healthy person to cancer patient can feel like falling off a cliff. But of course, developing cancer isn't quite that simple, even if you have Fusobacterium nucleatum growing in your gut. For starters, you also need genetic mutations to occur at the right time and place. And the exact path that these mutations need to take to turn a cell cancerous varies depending on the type of cancer you're looking at. So say a person who has a mutation that makes their cells prone to inflammation. If Fusobacterium nucleatum moves in and causes major inflammation in the gut, that person would have a higher risk of developing inflammatory bowel disease. But whether or not they develop cancer would depend on a whole host of other factors. Next, not everyone who has Fusobacterium nucleatum ends up getting cancer. Most people who have this microbe living in their guts don't develop any health problems at all. So there definitely seems to be some element of chance involved here. But still, the fact that Fusobacterium nucleatum can kickstart cancer development in such a short amount of time is really alarming. But the upside is that if we can understand exactly what this microbe is doing to turn cells cancerous, it might give us new ways to prevent and treat cancer. One potential approach is to target the protein FADA. If we can block FADA or keep it from latching onto host cells, we might be able to stop Fusobacterium nucleatum from causing trouble in the first place. Another strategy is to develop drugs that prevent this microbe from producing hydrogen sulfide. If we can neutralize that hydrogen sulfide or reduce the activity of the immune system, it might help protect the gut lining from damage. And by understanding how this microbe contributes to inflammation and leaky gut, we might be able to develop treatments that help heal the gut and prevent cancer from taking hold. And while it might be tempting to think of microbes as either good or bad, this study shows that things aren't always so black and white. Microbes are complicated and their relationship with us is complicated. Sometimes they help us out and sometimes they cause trouble. But it's that complexity that makes them so fascinating, and it's worth understanding that complexity to help keep ourselves healthy. Okay, so we talked a lot about cancer in this episode, but what about all the times you don't have cancer? Well, sometimes that's thanks to your immune system. And if you want to learn more about your immune system,